I never wanted to come back to Arizona. After 10 years of chasing a corporate career in Chicago, the last thing I expected was to find myself standing in the desert heat outside a house I barely remembered. My Aunt Clara had passed away, and with no children of her own, she left her property to me, an old adobe home and 40 acres of rugged land on the outskirts of Mesa Ridge. I arrived with the vague intention of cleaning the place up and selling it. My job had just laid me off, and Chicago's rent was draining what savings I had left. The Arizona house could mean a reset, maybe even a chance to start over, but the very first thing I saw made my stomach tighten. A letter taped to the front door in an official-looking envelope, stamped with the crest of the Mesa Ridge Homeowners Association. The letter demanded $180,000 in accumulated fines for violations dating back 5 years. Unauthorized livestock, non-conforming fencing, failure to maintain landscaping, and a bizarre charge for unsanctioned historical preservation. There was a threat at the bottom in bold print. If payment is not received within 30 days, the HOA will initiate foreclosure proceedings. My aunt's land wasn't part of any subdivision. It had stood there since before Mesa Ridge even existed. Confused, I walked down the driveway to get a sense of the surroundings. That's when I saw them, rows of identical Spanish-style villas stretching like an invading army right up to the edge of Clara's property. A new development, pristine and artificial, pushing into what I knew had once been untouched desert. "Looks familiar, doesn't it?" a voice said behind me. I turned to find a wiry old man leaning against the fence post, his cowboy hat tilted against the sun. "Name's Hank. Your aunt and I were neighbors a long time." I nodded cautiously. "They hounded her until the day she died," he went on. "HOA didn't like that she wouldn't sell. Started claiming she was inside their jurisdiction. Slapped her with fines she couldn't possibly pay. Damned shame. Clara fought hard, but they wore her down." I showed him the letter, and his weathered face hardened. "They're still at it, and now you're a new target." That night, I rummaged through Clara's dusty office, searching for anything that might make sense of this. In the bottom drawer, under stacks of old tax forms, I found a folder marked Boundaries. Inside were yellowed maps, photographs of stone markers in the desert, and Clara's handwritten notes. Survey lines shifted. HOA claims false. Proof in county archives. I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured my aunt sitting alone at this same desk, fighting a battle no one would take seriously, and now it was mine. The next morning, I drove into town, to the county records office, where an overworked clerk named Rosa took pity on me. She pulled up property maps on her computer and whispered, "Your aunt came here often." She said Mesa Ridge was expanding illegally. I couldn't say anything then, but "You should know you're not the only one suspicious of that HOA." Rosa compared Clara's original deed with the development surveys filed in recent years. There was a glaring discrepancy. Nearly 6 acres had somehow shifted into Mesa Ridge's control on paper. "If you want proof," she said, lowering her voice further, "you'll need an independent survey. I can give you the number of someone they haven't bought off." That's how I met Ray Delgado, a surveyor with calloused hands and a permanent squint. He spent a full day walking Clara's property with me, setting up equipment, muttering to himself as he checked coordinates against decades-old markers. By sundown, he handed me his conclusion. 6 acres of that shiny new subdivision, not theirs, yours, including 3 houses and part of their damn tennis courts. I felt my pulse hammering in my throat. My aunt had been right all along. Armed with Ray's report, I marched into the Mesa Ridge HOA office. The building looked like a desert resort. Arched entryways, fountains, polished stone floors. Behind a massive desk sat Veronica Steele, the HOA president. She was mid-40s, perfectly groomed, her tailored suit a sharp contrast to the desert outside. "Mr. Thompson," she said, smiling like a shark, "we've been expecting you. Your aunt was resistant to progress. I do hope you'll be more reasonable." I dropped the survey on her desk. "You've built houses on land that belongs to my family." Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed. She pushed the papers aside without looking. "Our development was approved by the county. You'll find your so-called evidence is worthless. What matters now are your violations and the debt you owe." Unless, of course, you'd prefer to sell. We'd be willing to make you a fair offer. No, I said flatly. Her voice cooled. Then you'll find yourself crushed under legal fees until you have no choice. Think carefully, Mr. Thompson. You're not equipped for this fight. I walked out shaking with fury. She had expected me to fold, just like Clara. Maybe any sane person would. But I couldn't. Not after watching them break my aunt. The next week, I attended an HOA meeting, open to non-members. The clubhouse was crowded with affluent residents, debating paint colors and pool maintenance. When the floor opened, I stood. My name is Daniel Thompson. Mesa Ridge has been built on land stolen from my family. I have documents proving it. A ripple of whispers spread through the room. Veronica's smile froze as I held up the maps. Her attorney, a nervous man named Whitaker, stepped in quickly. These are defamatory claims, Mr. Thompson has no standing here. But a woman in the back rose to speak. She introduced herself as Leah Parker, an attorney new to the community. I'd like to see those documents, she said firmly. If there's even a chance this HOA has exceeded its authority, we need to know. Veronica tried to cut her off, but Leah's words had already planted doubt. I caught her afterward, and she slipped me her card. Meet me tomorrow. I think you'll need help. Over the following weeks, Leah and I gathered allies. Hank provided old photographs of boundary markers. Ray finalized his survey into a notarized report. We found a construction worker who admitted the HOA ignored warnings about property lines during development. And Rosa quietly passed us copies of amended surveys, showing how the boundaries had been moved twice. When the local newspaper refused to print the story, citing Veronica's influence, I created a page online, Mesa Ridge Truth. I posted every document, every map, every witness statement. Residents began whispering. Some reached out privately, furious to learn their HOA fees were funding Veronica's legal crusades instead of promised amenities. Then came the escalation. The HOA raised the fines on Clara's property to $250,000. Veronica held a press conference, branding me a troublemaker jeopardizing property values. She offered me $1.5 million to sell. I refused. She retaliated with a lawsuit, demanding $500,000 in damages for defamation. Leah stood beside me in court. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, suspended all fines and ordered a neutral survey to settle the boundaries before anything else proceeded. Veronica seethed as we walked past her. "This isn't over," she hissed. While waiting for the survey, I dug deeper into Clara's files. In a false bottom drawer, I discovered something extraordinary. The company that signed it had gone bankrupt, its assets absorbed by none other than Mesa Ridge Development, the parent company Veronica controlled, which meant she'd known all along about the true boundaries and had failed to pay years of royalties owed to my aunt. When I confronted her in private, I recorded every word. Her mask slipped. "Do you think anyone will believe you?" She sneered. "I built this community. I decide what's legal here. People like you always break eventually." I walked out with her confession safely on my phone. 2 weeks later, I invited Mesa Ridge residents to a meeting on the disputed land itself. More than 100 people showed up, restless and uneasy. With Leah at my side, I laid out everything: the surveys, the amended maps, the testimonies, the unpaid water rights, and finally Veronica's recorded threat. The crowd turned, their anger no longer aimed at me, but at the woman who had deceived them. I made an offer. "I won't pursue back royalties if 3 things happen. All fines against my property are canceled. Veronica resigns from the HOA board, and a fair lease is established for this land, so you can stay in your homes without fear." For a long moment, silence. Then a man in a polo shirt spoke. "I worked my whole life for my house. I won't let her games take it away. I support this." Others followed, until the air was filled with agreement. Veronica stood rigid at the back, her face a mask of fury. She walked out without a word. Within a month, the HOA voted her out. Leah was elected in her place. The fines were erased, and the lease provided me with steady income. Veronica disappeared from Mesa Ridge. her empire unraveling as other communities filed lawsuits of their own. As for me, I stayed. What began as an unwanted inheritance became a home I couldn't abandon. I used the lease income to restore Clara's house and start a small desert education center, teaching local kids about water conservation and land stewardship. Hank helped me tend the land, Leah advised me on the nonprofit, and slowly I felt the weight of the past lifting. Sometimes, when the sun sets over the desert and the land glows gold, I think of Clara. She never gave up, even when no one listened. I carried her fight to the end, and though the HOA nearly buried me in lies and threats, they underestimated one thing: the power of standing your ground.